The morning started like any other Tuesday in my 70 years of life. I was standing in my kitchen, the smell of fresh coffee filling the air, when I heard the front door open without so much as a knock. My son Marcus walked in with that confident stride he always had, the one that said he owned whatever space he entered. Before we proceed, we want to appreciate you for watching Granny's narrative. Please subscribe and tell us where you are watching from in the comment. Mom, we need to talk about something important. My wife, the kids, and my mother-in-law are moving in here next weekend. Their apartment lease is up and we cannot afford anything bigger right now. It makes perfect sense since you have all this extra space. I stood there holding my coffee mug, feeling like the floor had just disappeared beneath my feet. This was not a question. This was not a request. This was an announcement, delivered in my own home about my own life, without a single word asking what I thought or felt about it. I am 70 years old. I spent 43 years working as a seamstress and housekeeper to buy this house. Every room represents years of sacrifice, double shifts, skipped meals, worn-out shoes, and dreams deferred. And now my own son was standing in my living room telling me that strangers were moving into the space I had fought so hard to create for myself. I watched him pace across the floor I had saved 2 years to replace. His hands moved through the air as he explained his plans for rearranging my furniture, converting my spaces, redistributing my home to accommodate people I barely knew. He spoke about my house like it was a problem he was solving, a resource he was utilizing, a solution to difficulties that had nothing to do with me. Did you hear me, Mom? Jennifer is already packing everything. The kids are so excited because they will finally have a yard to play in. And Diane, you know my mother-in-law, she cannot live alone anymore. She is getting older and we cannot afford proper care. You have 3 bedrooms here and you live completely alone. It is the perfect solution. Then, my daughter-in-law Jennifer's mother. A woman I had met exactly 4 times in the 7 years Marcus and Jennifer had been married. A woman who would now occupy my guest bedroom, the room I had furnished over 5 years with careful selections from estate sales and clearance racks. The room where my friends stayed when they visited. The room that represented my right to have guests, to maintain friendships, to live a social life on my own terms. Marcus, I said, keeping my voice steady even though something was breaking inside me. This is my house. I worked for it, paid for it. I make the decisions about it. He actually laughed. Not a small chuckle but a full laugh, as if I had told a joke. As if a 70-year-old woman expressing an opinion about her own property was somehow amusing. That laugh hurt worse than anything he could have said. It was dismissive, condescending, the laugh of someone who believed his mother had no real authority over her own life. Mom, do not be so dramatic about this. It is just temporary, maybe 6 months until we find something bigger. Besides, you should not be living alone at your age. What if you fall? What if something happens and nobody knows about it? Having family around will be good for you. There it was. The argument I had heard from all my children at various times. The suggestion that turning 70 had somehow transformed me into an incompetent person who needed supervision. As if my 7 decades of life experience counted for nothing compared to the opinions of people half my age who could not even manage their own housing situation. The truth was that I loved living alone. For the first time in my entire life, I made every decision about my day without consulting anyone else. I watched whatever television shows I wanted. I ate dinner at 9 in the evening if that was when I got hungry. I left my sewing projects spread across the dining table for days. I invited my book club friends over on Thursday nights. I had learned to use my smartphone and regularly video chatted with my grandchildren who lived across the country. I had a life, a full life, and I did not need anyone to manage it for me. When are you planning to move them in? I asked, and I heard the edge in my own voice. This Saturday. Jennifer has been packing for 2 weeks already. The kids will take your sewing room since it is the biggest extra bedroom. You will love having them around, I promise. Diane will be in the guest room. For now, Jennifer and I will set up in the living room until we figure out something more permanent. My sewing room. The space I had created after my husband died 5 years ago. The room where I had my machine, my fabric organized in rainbow order, my patterns catalogued by season, My buttons sorted by size and color. The room where I went when I needed peace, when I needed to create something beautiful with my own hands. Now it would become a bedroom for two children who, while I loved them, would destroy my carefully organized sanctuary within days. As Marcus continued talking, explaining his timeline, his moving plans, his vision for how I would adapt my life to accommodate his family, something shifted inside me. It was not anger exactly, though anger was part of it. It was not sadness, though I felt that too. It was something deeper and more powerful. It was a decision forming, a line being drawn, a boundary being established for the first time in 7 decades. I had always been the mother who said yes. The one who sacrificed everything for her children. The one who worked 70-hour weeks so they could have decent clothes and school supplies. The one who ate leftovers so they could have full plates. The one who delayed buying necessities for herself year after year so the family could have what it needed. I had been that woman for so long I had almost forgotten that Rose Martinez had ever existed as a separate person with her own wants and needs and dreams. But standing there in my kitchen, listening to my son dispose of my life without consultation, I felt Rose Martinez waking up. Not the mother, not the grandmother, not the helpful family member who existed to solve other people's problems. Just Rose, a 70-year-old woman who had earned the right to make her own choices. "Okay, Marcus," I finally said, and I watched his shoulders relax. He thought I was agreeing. He thought the conversation was over. Bring them on Saturday. His face lit up with relief and satisfaction. He kissed my forehead like I was a good child who had obeyed instructions. He told me how happy Jennifer would be, how excited the kids were, how grateful Diane felt. Then he left, trailing that cheap cologne he always wore, leaving me standing in my kitchen with a coffee pot in one hand and a plan forming in my mind. Marcus did not know it yet, but he had just made the biggest mistake of his adult life. He had assumed his mother was still the same woman who never said no, who never pushed back, who always found a way to make things work regardless of the personal cost. He had no idea that Rose Martinez was about to show him exactly what she was capable of when pushed too far. I picked up my phone and called Patricia, my closest friend from the walking group we had formed 2 years ago. Patricia was 68, sharp as a tack, and had raised 4 children who tried similar manipulations on her regularly. "Patricia, it is Rose. Can you come over early tomorrow morning? I need your advice about something very serious." The concern in her voice was immediate. "Course, honey. Are you okay? Should I come now?" "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. But I need to make some plans and I need someone who will understand. I will be there at 7:30. That night I did not sleep much. I lay in my bed, the one I had bought for myself after my husband died, the one with a good mattress that supported my back properly, and I thought about everything that had brought me to this moment. All the years of putting others first. All the times I had swallowed my own needs to meet someone else's expectations. All the dreams I had deferred and delayed and eventually abandoned because being a good mother, a good wife, a good woman meant endless self-sacrifice. At what point had my children decided that my house was theirs to claim? At what point had my own son concluded that his mother's opinions about her own life were irrelevant? And more importantly, at what point had I taught them that this was acceptable? The next morning I woke at 5:30 like I always did. My routine was precious to me. I checked my phone and saw messages in the neighborhood walking group chat where Patricia and 5 other women shared good morning greetings and made plans for our daily walk. I saw photos on my social media from my grandchildren who lived in different states, the ones who sent me videos and messages telling me they loved me, who valued my presence in their lives without expecting me to solve their problems. I showered and dressed in my favorite purple tracksuit, the one I had bought last month on a shopping trip with Patricia. I put on makeup the way my granddaughter Sophia had taught me over video chat, not because I needed to impress anyone but because I liked how it made me feel about myself. At 70, I had learned that self-care was not vanity. It was respect for the woman I had become after decades of serving everyone else. I made my breakfast carefully. Oatmeal with fresh berries, black coffee, my calcium supplement. I ate at my table by the window, overlooking the small garden I maintained in the backyard. It was not elaborate, but it was mine. I had planted every flower, chosen every stone in the pathway, decided where the bird feeder would hang. This was my space, my creation, my peace. Patricia arrived exactly at 7:30, ringing the doorbell like a respectful guest rather than barging in like she owned the place. She came in with her usual energy, her gray hair cut short and stylish, her eyes sharp with intelligence and concern. "What happened, Rose? You sounded worried on the phone yesterday." I told her everything. I explained how Marcus had arrived with his decision already made, how he had treated me like my opinion was irrelevant, how he had laughed when I tried to assert my ownership of my own home. Patricia listened with the attention only true friends give, the kind of listening that comes from shared experiences and mutual respect. "And what did you tell him?" she asked when I finished. I told him it was fine, that he should bring everyone on Saturday. Patricia looked at me in confusion for just a moment before understanding dawned in her eyes. She knew me well enough to recognize that I was not capitulating. I was planning. "Rose Martinez, what are you thinking?" "I am thinking that I am 70 years old and I have worked my entire life to have something of my own. I am not going to let anyone, not even my son, take away the peace I spent decades building." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to take control of my own life. And I am going to need your help." I explained my plan to her. It was not something I had invented overnight. It was something I had been considering for months, ever since Marcus first started making comments about how large my house was for one person, ever since Jennifer began dropping hints about how nice it would be to have a yard for the children. I had seen this coming. I had just not expected them to be so bold about it. Patricia listened to everything I said, her eyes growing wider with each detail. When I finished, she sat back in her chair and looked at me with something like awe. "Rose, are you absolutely certain about this? Once you do this, there is no going back." "I am more certain about this than I have been about anything in years. Patricia, I raised 6 children. I was married for 42 years. I worked 2 jobs for most of my adult life. I have given enough. I have sacrificed enough. I am not going to spend whatever years I have left being treated like a resource instead of a person." "Then I am with you completely. What do you need me to do?" "For now, just come with me to a few places this week. And if Marcus or anyone asks, you do not know anything about my plans." We spent the rest of the morning drinking coffee and talking about similar situations we had both witnessed. Patricia told me about her friend Maria, whose son had moved his entire family into her 2-bedroom apartment and then complained about how cramped it was. About her cousin Elena, who had given up her bedroom for her daughter's family and spent 3 years sleeping on a couch in her own home. About her neighbor Sandra, who had taken in her son and his family temporarily, and 15 years later they were still there, having taken over her entire house while she lived in what used to be her laundry room. "This is what happens when we do not set boundaries," Patricia said. "Our children grow up thinking our resources are theirs to claim, our homes are theirs to occupy, our lives are theirs to direct." After our coffee, we went to the park for our daily walk. Our group met at 9 in the morning. 7 women between 62 and 75 who had discovered the joy of exercise and friendship without anyone telling us what we should be doing with our time. "Good morning, Rose," called out Gloria Mendez, a 73-year-old retired teacher who had more energy than most people half her age. "How are you this beautiful morning?" "I am wonderful, Gloria. Ready for a good walk and good conversation." As we walked the trail that wound through the park, listening to the other women chat about their families, their hobbies, their weekend plans, I realized how much I would lose if I let Marcus have his way. A house full of people meant no freedom to leave when I wanted. It meant always being available, always being needed, always putting someone else first. It meant going back to the woman I had been for so many years, the one who existed to serve others rather than to live her own life. During our walk, Teresa Garcia told us about her son suggesting she sell her car because he thought she was too old to drive safely. We were all outraged. Teresa drove more carefully than anyone we knew. She had never had an accident, never gotten a ticket, always maintained her vehicle properly. "They just cannot accept that we are still capable adults with our own lives," said Linda Flores, a 65-year-old woman who worked part-time at a bookstore because she enjoyed it, not because she needed the money. "They see us reach a certain age and suddenly we are supposed to become incompetent." We all understood. It was a theme that connected us, The constant struggle to maintain our independence against children who meant well but who could not see past our age to recognize that we were still fully functioning human beings with our own desires and plans. After our walk, Patricia and I went to lunch at a small cafe near the park. We sat outside in the sunshine, eating salads and talking about our plans for the rest of the week. I told her I needed to handle some business matters and asked if she would come with me. "Course I will come. Rose, I think what you are doing takes tremendous courage. At our age, we do not have time to waste living for other people." She was right. At 70, I did not have decades stretching ahead of me. I had years, maybe 2 decades if I was lucky and healthy. I could not afford to spend that time being unhappy just to make my children comfortable. When I got home that afternoon, I sat in my living room and looked at everything I had created. My television where I watched my favorite shows without anyone changing the channel or complaining about my choices. My comfortable couch where I read books in the afternoon sun. My dining table where I ate meals at whatever time I chose. My kitchen organized exactly the way I wanted it. My sewing room where I created beautiful things for myself and my friends. All of this was about to change if I did nothing. But I was not going to do nothing. Rose Martinez was going to fight for what was hers. On Wednesday morning, I was having my coffee and checking messages from my walking group when my doorbell rang. It was Jennifer, my daughter-in-law, carrying a box of donuts and wearing that smile she used when she wanted something. "Good morning, Mom. I brought your favorites." She called me that when she needed something. The rest of the time, I was Rose if she addressed me directly at all. But when she wanted something, suddenly I was Mom, as if that title came with automatic obligations. "Come in, Jennifer. Would you like some coffee?" "That would be lovely. I wanted to talk to you about the move on Saturday. I'm so excited. The kids cannot stop talking about it." She sat at my dining table like she already belonged there, like this was already her home rather than mine. I served her coffee in one of my nice cups and sat down across from her. "So everything is ready for Saturday?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Yes, almost everything is packed. Marcus rented a truck and his friends are going to help us move. The kids have already decided which bed they want in the sewing room. They are measuring their toys to see what will fit." The sewing room. My sanctuary. The place where I spent hours creating beautiful quilts, altering clothes for my friends, working on craft projects that brought me joy. Soon it would be a bedroom filled with toys and children's furniture and the chaos of 2 energetic kids. "And your mother, how is Diane feeling about the move?" "Oh, she is so grateful, Mom. You know she has been having memory problems lately. Sometimes she forgets to take her medications. Sometimes she leaves the stove on. She really cannot live alone anymore and we just cannot afford proper care for her. Having her here with you will be such a blessing." There was the emotional manipulation, presented in a package of necessity and gratitude. Moving into my house was being framed as me doing them a favor, me helping a poor elderly woman who needed care. As if refusing would make me cruel and heartless. As if I was somehow responsible for Diane's well-being even though I barely knew her. "Where will you and Marcus be sleeping?" I asked. "We are bringing a sofa bed for the living room. It will be fine for now. Marcus is already talking to some people about finding us a bigger place. This is just temporary, probably 6 months at most." 6 months. But I knew better. I had seen this pattern with my daughter Linda 3 years ago. She and her husband had moved in with Linda's in-laws for what was supposed to be 3 months. They were still there. The temporary had become permanent because once you let someone into your home, getting them to leave became nearly impossible. "Mom, I also wanted to assure you that we are going to help with the expenses. We know having 4 more people in the house will increase the bills. How much are you planning to contribute?" The question seemed to surprise her. She shifted in her chair, looking uncomfortable. "Well, whatever we can manage. You know how tight money is right now. Marcus is driving rideshare whenever he can and I am working at the boutique, but the hours are not consistent. Whatever they could manage." That meant almost nothing. That meant I would be paying for the electricity to run air conditioning for 7 people instead of 1. The water for 7 people's showers and laundry. The gas for cooking meals for 7 instead of 1. The increased wear and tear on everything in my house. "Jennifer, can I ask you something?" "Course, Mom." "Anything." Did Marcus ask me if I wanted you all to move in here? She looked confused by the question, as if it had never occurred to her that my opinion might matter. Well, he said you were okay with it. He told me you were feeling lonely and would enjoy having family around. He told you I was lonely. He said you had mentioned several times how quiet the house was, how you wished you had more company. That was a complete lie. I had never said anything like that to Marcus. I had told him repeatedly how much I enjoyed my quiet life, my independence, my routine. He had invented this story to make Jennifer feel comfortable about the invasion, to eliminate any guilt she might feel about displacing me in my own home. Jennifer, I am not lonely. I have my friends, my walking group, my book club, my sewing projects. This house is not too big for me. It is exactly right for me. I watched her face change as understanding began to dawn. For the first time since she arrived, her confident smile faltered. But Marcus said you were excited about having the kids here. He said you volunteered to let us move in. Marcus said a lot of things that were not true. He never asked me if I wanted you to move in. He never discussed it with me. He simply announced that you were coming. The color drained from her face. She set down her coffee cup with a hand that shook slightly. Mom, I did not know. He told me everything was arranged. He said you two had talked about it and agreed on everything. We did not talk about anything. He made a unilateral decision about my life and my home without consulting me at all. She sat there in silence, processing this information. For the first time in the 7 years she had been married to my son, Jennifer was seeing the situation from my perspective. But we have already given notice on our apartment. We have already packed everything. We told Diane she was moving. We told the kids about their new rooms. Those are all consequences of decisions you made based on assumptions you should have verified. I am not responsible for your planning. Her expression shifted from confusion to something harder. The friendly daughter-in-law mask slipped away and I saw annoyance beneath it. So what are you saying? That we cannot move in? That is exactly what I am saying. She stood up from the table abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Marcus told me you would be fine with this. He promised. Marcus was wrong. What are we supposed to do now? We do not have anywhere else to go. That is something you and Marcus need to figure out. I did not create this problem. She left without saying goodbye, without taking the box of donuts she had brought, without any of the friendliness she had arrived with. She left angry and worried, finally realizing that Rose Martinez was not the pushover everyone assumed she was. After she left, I sat on my couch and took several deep breaths. That was the first real confrontation and I had held my ground. I had not backed down, had not apologized, had not let guilt manipulate me into changing my position. I texted Patricia. First battle complete. Jennifer just left looking very unhappy. Her response came immediately. Are you okay? Need me to come over? I am perfect. Tomorrow we move to phase 2 of the plan. That night I slept better than I had in weeks. I had stood up for myself. I had set a clear boundary. I had refused to be manipulated. For the first time in a very long time I felt powerful. On Thursday evening, Marcus arrived in a fury. He did not ring the doorbell. He did not knock. He used the key I had given him years ago for emergencies and burst into my house like a storm. What did you say to Jennifer? She has been crying all day. The kids are confused. We have everything packed. What is your problem? He stood in my living room, his face red with anger. His voice raised loud enough that the neighbors probably heard him. But I had been preparing for this moment. I was ready. My problem, Marcus, is that you made plans for my life without asking me. We already discussed this. You said it was fine. I never said it was fine. Said okay. That is not the same as agreeing. Do not play word games with me. You knew what we were planning and you let us move forward with it. You moved forward with it, Marcus. I did not participate in any planning because nobody asked me to participate. He paced back and forth across my living room floor, running his hands through his hair in frustration. This was how he always reacted when things did not go his way, with aggression and noise, thinking he could overwhelm people into compliance. Mom, we need this. We are desperate. The apartment is too small. Kids need space. Diane cannot live alone. You have 3 empty bedrooms. Why are you being so selfish? Selfish. The word I had been waiting for. The accusation that always came when I tried to prioritize my own needs. As if wanting to keep my home and my peace made me a bad person. It is selfish to want to live peacefully in the house I spent 43 years working to buy. You live alone. You do not need all this space. That is not for you to decide, Marcus. I am your son. Family helps family. When was the last time you helped me without me having to ask? The question stopped him mid-pace. He turned to look at me with genuine confusion, as if he had never considered whether the help in our relationship went both directions. Come visit you. You come when you need something. When you need money. When you need free babysitting. When you want me to cook for your dinner parties. When was the last time you came just to see how I was doing? He had no answer because there was no answer. Every visit had an agenda, every phone call a request, every interaction a need for something from me. Besides, if we were really family in the way you claim, you would have asked my permission before making this decision. But I thought you would agree. That is not the same as asking. You assumed. You decided. You planned. All without involving me. What are we supposed to do now? We already gave up the apartment. That is your problem. You created it by making assumptions and burning bridges before confirming anything with me. You are going to let your own son and grandchildren be homeless. You are not going to be homeless. You are just going to have to find another solution that does not involve taking over my house. He sat down heavily on my couch, his anger deflating into something closer to panic. This was not how he had expected this conversation to go. He had thought a few raised voices would bring me into line like they always had before. Mom, please. Jennifer is crying. The kids do not understand. Diane has nowhere else to go. Can we at least talk about some kind of compromise? No compromise. You are not moving in here. What if we paid rent? A real rent like we would pay anywhere else. Well, what if we promised to move out in 3 months? We could sign something making it official. Well, what if we stayed just until we found something else? We would not get in your way at all. No, Marcus. No to all of it. I am not running a temporary housing program. This is my home and I am keeping it for myself. He stood up, his face cycling through anger, disbelief, and something that might have been respect if he had been capable of it. I do not understand what happened to you. You used to be kind. You used to care about your family. I used to be a doormat. Now I am a person who values herself. Fine. I will figure something out. But do not expect me to forget this. Do not expect me to come running when you need help. I have not needed your help in 5 years, Marcus. But you need mine constantly. Think about that. He left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. I stood in my living room listening to his truck peel out of my driveway, feeling exhausted but victorious. Patricia called 10 minutes later. I just saw Marcus drive past my house like a bat out of hell. Are you okay? I am perfect. He is furious, but it does not matter anymore. You really did it. You actually stood up to him. I did. And tomorrow we execute the main part of the plan. Tomorrow changes everything. On Friday morning, I woke with a clarity I had not felt in years. This was the day Rose Martinez took control of her future. This was the day I stopped being who everyone expected me to be and started being who I wanted to be. Patricia picked me up at 9 in the morning. We drove downtown to the bank where I had maintained accounts for 30 years. The manager, Mrs. Chen, greeted me warmly. Mrs. Martinez, how can I help you today? I need to make a large transfer, please. She looked at my accounts on her computer screen. For the past 5 years, I had been systematically saving money. My pension covered my basic expenses, but I also took in sewing work, altering clothes for people in the neighborhood, making quilts for special occasions, creating custom pieces for local boutiques. Every dollar from that work went into my savings account. What amount are you wanting to transfer? I told her the exact figure. Her eyebrows rose slightly, but she was too professional to comment. That is quite a substantial transfer. May I ask the purpose? It is just for our records. I am making a major life change and I need the funds accessible. She nodded and processed the transaction. Within minutes, the money was moved exactly where I needed it to be. Is there anything else I can help you with today, Mrs. Martinez? No, that is everything. Thank you for your help. Patricia and I left the bank and drove directly to the office of Robert Chen, a real estate agent who had been helping me with some private transactions over the past 2 months. Mrs. Martinez, Patricia, come in. Everything is ready for you. We sat in his office and he spread papers across his desk. These were documents I had been reviewing and modifying for weeks, making sure every detail was exactly right. Are you absolutely certain about this decision, Mrs. Martinez? Once these papers are signed, the process is irreversible. Mr. Chen, I have never been more certain about anything in my life. I signed each document carefully, my name appearing on line after line, taking ownership and making choices and determining my own future. Patricia sat beside me, a witness to the most important decision I had made in 70 years. Excellent. You should have full access to everything by Monday morning. And the other matter, also finalized. The buyers are very pleased. They are getting an excellent property at a fair price. Patricia squeezed my hand as we left the real estate office. She knew what these signatures meant. She knew there was no going back now. How do you feel? Like I just got my life back. We went to lunch at a nice restaurant celebrating this moment. I ordered wine even though I rarely drank. This was an occasion that called for celebration. When are you going to tell Marcus? Tomorrow. When he arrives with the moving truck. Oh, Rose. That is going to be quite a scene. I'm counting on it. That afternoon I went home and began packing. Not everything, just the important things. My favorite clothes. My documents and important papers. Photo albums full of memories. My sewing machine and my most treasured fabrics. My grandmother's jewelry. The things that mattered. Are you sad to leave this house? Patricia asked as she helped me wrap picture frames in newspaper. This house was my dream for 40 years. But now that I have it, I realized the dream was not the house itself. The dream was having control over my own life. That is incredibly wise. I am 70 years old. If I have not learned wisdom by now, I never will. We packed everything into Patricia's car since my own car would be needed for the final stage of the plan. As the sun set on Friday evening, I looked around my house one last time as its sole owner. Tomorrow everything changes. Tomorrow Rose Martinez starts over. Saturday morning arrived with brilliant sunshine that seemed to mock the storm that was about to unfold. I woke early, dressed carefully in my favorite outfit, and prepared myself mentally for the confrontation that was coming. At 9 in the morning, I heard the rumble of a large truck pulling into my driveway. Through my front window, I watched Marcus climb out of the driver's seat. Behind him, Jennifer's car pulled up with the kids bouncing excitedly in the back seat. A third vehicle arrived carrying Marcus's friends who had come to help move furniture. They climbed out with the confidence of people who believed everything was settled. Marcus directed his friends toward the truck's loading door. Jennifer helped the kids out of their car seats. From the passenger side of Jennifer's car, Diane emerged slowly, leaning on her walker, looking frail and confused. I waited until they were all assembled on my front lawn, until the kids started running toward my front door with excitement, until Marcus began giving instructions about which furniture to unload first. Then I opened my door and stepped outside. Good morning, everyone. Mom, good morning. We are here. The guys are going to start bringing everything in. Can you unlock the garage so we can store some boxes there? That will not be necessary. The activity on my lawn stopped. Marcus turned to look at me. Jennifer stopped unpacking bags from her car. The friends helping with the move stood frozen, looking between Marcus and me with growing confusion. What do you mean it will not be necessary? I mean you are not unloading anything. You are not moving in here. The silence that followed felt like the entire neighborhood was holding its breath. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. Mom, what are you talking about? We are here. Everything is packed. We are ready to move in. I did not give you permission to move in. I told you that already. Multiple times. Marcus's face turned dark red. He stalked across the lawn toward me with fury in his eyes. Are you serious right now? Do you see this truck? Do you know how much this cost? Do you see my children? Where do you expect them to sleep tonight? That is not my concern, Marcus. Jennifer approached now, holding on to the kids' hands. Kevin was 8 and Lisa was 6, both looking confused by the tension. Mom, please, the kids are scared. Let us at least talk about this inside. There is nothing to discuss inside because you are not coming inside. Diane, still standing by the car, called out in her weak voice. Where is my room? I need to sit down. My legs hurt. There is no room for you here, ma'am. I'm sorry, but you need to find other arrangements. The cruelty of that moment was not lost on me. Diane was 75, frail, confused. But I also knew that once she crossed my threshold, I would become responsible for her care, her medications, her needs. I would be the one getting up at night when she wandered. I would be the one managing her doctor's appointments. I would be the one whose life would be consumed by caring for a woman I barely knew. The movers who had been hired to help stood awkwardly by the truck. Sir, one of them called to Marcus. Do you want us to unload or not? We are on the clock here. Yes, unload everything. My mother is just being difficult. I addressed the movers directly. This is my house. My name is on the deed. I am telling you that I do not want anything unloaded on my property. If you unload against my wishes, I will call the police for trespassing. The lead mover, a man in his 50s who had clearly seen family drama before, nodded slowly. Ma'am, if you say this is your property and you do not want us here, we cannot proceed. Sir, he said to Marcus, we cannot help you with this. Marcus exploded. He started yelling that I was insane, that I was cruel, that he could not believe his own mother would do this to him. He shouted that he was going to have me declared mentally incompetent, that he would prove I was not capable of making my own decisions. Do that, Marcus. I have recent medical records showing I am perfectly healthy mentally and physically. I have bank statements showing I manage my finances competently. I have a social life and friendships and activities. You will not win that fight. Jennifer started crying. The kids, sensing the tension, began crying too. Diane sank down to sit on the curb, looking lost and frightened. Neighbors had started coming out of their houses. Mrs. Rodriguez from across the street stood on her porch watching. Mr. Thompson next door pretended to water plants that clearly did not need watering. The entire street was witnessing the Martinez family drama. Just then, Patricia pulled up in her car. We had planned this carefully, timing her arrival to show support during the confrontation. Rose, is everything all right? She called out as she walked up the driveway. Everything is perfectly fine, Patricia. They were just about to leave. Marcus turned his fury toward her now. This is your fault. You put these crazy ideas in her head. She was never like this before you became her friend. Patricia stopped and looked at him with a kind of calm dignity that only comes from decades of dealing with difficult people. Young man, your mother does not need anyone to put ideas in her head. She is a fully capable adult who knows exactly what she wants. The only crazy thing here is you thinking you could take over her house without asking. I am her son. This is family business. This is her property. That makes it her business. You are just someone trying to take something that does not belong to you. Marcus looked ready to explode, but one of his friends put a hand on his shoulder. Man, maybe we should just go. This is not working out. Well, I am not leaving until she lets us in. This is ridiculous. Pulled out my phone. Marcus, you have two choices. You can leave now peacefully, or I can call the police and have you removed from my property for trespassing. Which would you prefer? You would call the police on your own son. I would call the police on anyone who refuses to leave my property when asked. He stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. And perhaps he was. The mother he had known, the woman who always gave in, who always sacrificed, who always put everyone else first, that woman was gone. In her place stood Rose Martinez, a woman who knew her worth and defended her boundaries. Fine. We will leave. But do not ever ask me for anything again. Do not expect me to visit. Do not expect me to bring the grandchildren. You made your choice. I have made my choice. And I choose myself. They loaded back into their vehicles, the moving truck still full of their belongings, the kids crying in confusion, Jennifer sobbing into her hands, Diane looking completely lost. Marcus slammed the door of the truck so hard I thought the window might crack. As they pulled away, Marcus leaned out the window and shouted one more thing. I'm coming back with a lawyer. I will prove you are not fit to own this house. I will get guardianship over you. When you do that, bring documentation proving your claim. Because I have everything I need to prove you wrong. The vehicles disappeared around the corner, and the street slowly returned to normal. Neighbors retreated into their houses, the show over. Patricia stood beside me on my lawn. How do you feel? Free. Completely free. What happens now? Now we go inside and I show you something. We walked into my house together. Patricia looked around with curiosity. Rose, what are you going to do about Marcus? He is serious about getting a lawyer. Let him. I have medical clearance from my doctor dated 3 days ago. I have bank statements showing perfect financial management. I have character references from 6 different friends. I have documentation of my active social life and my volunteer work. No judge would declare me incompetent. But he is going to try. Let him try. In the meantime, I have other plans. I showed her the documents from Mr. Chen's office. Her eyes widened as she read through them. Rose, you did not. I did. You actually sold this house. The sale finalized yesterday. The new owners take possession on Monday. Patricia sat down heavily on my couch. Where are you going to live? I handed her another set of documents. She read through them slowly, her expression changing from shock to understanding to pure admiration. You bought a condo. In that new building downtown. 2 bedrooms, modern kitchen, beautiful view, security at the entrance, and most importantly, Marcus does not know about it. Nobody in the family knows about it. Rose Martinez, you are absolutely brilliant. I am 70 years old and I finally learned that I do not have to live my life according to other people's expectations. We spent the rest of the day packing the remaining items I wanted to keep. Everything else would stay with the house, included in the sale. The new owners were a young couple with a baby, and they were thrilled to get a fully furnished house at a fair price. That evening, as the sun set on my last night in this house, I walked through each room saying goodbye. The living room where I had raised my children. The kitchen where I had cooked thousands of meals. The bedroom where I had slept beside my husband for 42 years. The sewing room where I had found peace after he died. But I was not sad. These were just rooms, just walls and floors and memories. The real Rose Martinez was not contained in this building. She was standing here, ready to move forward, ready to start fresh, ready to live the life she had earned. On Monday morning, the moving truck I had hired arrived to take my belongings to my new condo. It was a fraction of what Marcus had planned to bring to my house, just my personal items and my most treasured possessions. Patricia drove me to my new building while the movers handled everything else. We pulled up to a modern high-rise with a doorman and security and a beautiful lobby with marble floors. Welcome home, Patricia said as we walked inside. My new condo was on the 8th floor with windows overlooking the city park. It was smaller than my house, but it was perfect. Modern appliances, fresh paint, hardwood floors, a balcony where I could have morning coffee while watching the sunrise. The movers brought in my furniture and I directed them on where to place everything. By evening, my new home was arranged and ready. My sewing machine in the spare bedroom that I had designated as my craft room. My comfortable chair by the window. My photographs on the walls. My life organized exactly how I wanted it. That first night in my new home, I made dinner in my new kitchen, ate at my new table, and watched television in my new living room. And I felt more at peace than I had in years. The next morning my phone rang. It was Marcus. Mom, I just drove by the house. There is a for sale sign with a sold marker on it. What is going on? I sold the house, Marcus. You what? I sold my house. The new owners moved in yesterday. The silence on the other end of the phone lasted so long I thought he had hung up. Where are you living? That is not your concern. Mom, you cannot just sell the family house. That was our inheritance. There was the truth finally spoken plainly. He had not been worried about my well-being or my happiness. He had been protecting what he saw as his future inheritance. That house was my property, Marcus. Earned it. Paid for it. I had every right to sell it. But where did you go? Where are you staying? I am in my new home. A home that is perfect for me and my needs. Give me the address. I need to see that you are okay. Well, what do you mean no? I mean I am not giving you my address. You lost the right to know where I live when you tried to take over my life. I am your son. You have to tell me. I do not have to tell you anything, Marcus. I am an adult. I make my own decisions. I am coming to find you. I will hire an investigator if I have to. Do what you need to do. But until you are ready to treat me with respect, you are not welcome in my life. I hung up the phone and blocked his number. It was harsh but necessary. Marcus needed to understand that his behavior had consequences. Over the next few weeks, my life settled into a beautiful new rhythm. I joined a book club in my building. I discovered the rooftop garden where residents could grow vegetables and flowers. I made friends with my neighbors, women my age who were also living independently and loving it. Patricia and I continued our morning walks in the park, now meeting at a coffee shop near my building. The walking group welcomed several new members, all women over 60 who had decided to prioritize their own health and happiness. I set up my sewing business from home, taking custom orders through a website my granddaughter helped me create. Without the burden of a large house to maintain, I had more time and energy for my creative work. My income actually increased because I could focus on the projects I enjoyed rather than constantly managing property maintenance. 3 months after moving, I received a letter at my old address that was forwarded by the post office. It was from Marcus's lawyer, threatening legal action to gain guardianship over me based on claims of mental incompetence. I took the letter to a lawyer Patricia had recommended, a woman named Sarah Rodriguez who specialized in elder law. Mrs. Martinez, she said after reading the letter, this is a baseless claim. You are clearly mentally competent. You manage your own finances. You live independently. You have documentation of excellent health. Can he cause problems for me? He can try. But honestly, judges see this all the time. Adult children who expected to inherit property and are upset when their parents make different choices. Unless there is genuine evidence of incompetence, which there clearly is not in your case, these cases get dismissed quickly. What do I need to do? Attend the hearing, which will be scheduled if he proceeds. Bring your medical records, your financial statements, and character witnesses. I will represent you and this will be resolved swiftly. The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. I arrived at the courthouse with Sarah, Patricia, and 3 other friends from my walking group who had volunteered to speak on my behalf. Marcus arrived with his lawyer and Jennifer. They looked tired and stressed. I later learned they had rented a small apartment and were struggling financially with the increased rent and the loss of the cheap solution my house had represented. The judge, an older woman who looked like she had seen every family drama imaginable, reviewed the case materials before the hearing even began. Mr. Gomez, she said, looking at Marcus over her reading glasses, you are claiming your mother is mentally incompetent. Yes, Your Honor. She sold her house without consulting the family. She is making irrational decisions. She needs someone to manage her affairs. Mrs. Martinez, the judge turned to me. Do you understand why you are here today? Yes, Your Honor. My son is upset that I sold my house and moved without his permission. And do you understand the implications of this guardianship petition? Yes, Your Honor. He wants to control my finances and my decisions because he disagrees with the choices I have made. The judge looked at the medical records Sarah had submitted. I see here that you had a full cognitive evaluation 3 months ago. You scored perfectly in all areas. Your doctor notes that you are in excellent mental health. That is correct, Your Honor. I also see that you manage your own finances with no assistance. You have savings, investments, and a consistent income from your business. Your financial records show careful planning and responsible management. Yes, Your Honor. And I have letters here from 6 different people attesting to your active social life, your volunteer work, and your general competence. The judge turned back to Marcus. Mr. Gomez, what evidence do you have that your mother is incompetent? Marcus's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, our position is that the sudden sale of the family home and the secretive nature of her new living arrangements indicate impaired judgment. The judge raised an eyebrow. Secretive nature. She is a 70-year-old woman who chose not to share her address with family members. That is not evidence of incompetence. That is evidence of boundary setting. But Your Honor, she refused to let us move in with her. She left us with nowhere to go. The judge looked at Marcus with something between pity and disdain. Mr. Gomez, are you an adult? Yes, Your Honor. Do you have a job? Yes, Your Honor. Then your housing situation is your responsibility, not your mother's. The fact that she declined to house you does not indicate incompetence. It indicates that she has different priorities than you do. He turned back to me. Mrs. Martinez, do you love your son? I do, Your Honor. Very much. But I also love myself, and I have learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is allow adult children to solve their own problems. The judge nodded, a small smile appearing on her face. I am dismissing this petition. Mrs. Martinez is clearly competent, mentally sharp, and capable of managing her own affairs. Mr. Gomez, I suggest you respect your mother's decisions and work on your own housing situation without expecting her to solve your problems. She banged her gavel and the hearing was over. Marcus stood there in shock. His lawyer gathered papers quickly, clearly embarrassed to have brought such a weak case before a judge. Jennifer looked at me with something that might have been understanding or might have been resentment. As I left the courthouse with my friends, I felt the last weight lift from my shoulders. I had won. Not just the legal case but something much more important. I had won my right to live my own life. 6 months after moving into my condo, my life had transformed in ways I could never have imagined. My sewing business was thriving. I had been featured in a local newspaper article about seniors starting businesses in retirement. Orders poured in for custom quilts, clothing alterations, and specialty items. I had also started teaching sewing classes from my building's community room. Every Thursday evening, 6 women gathered to learn techniques and work on projects together. It brought in extra income and gave me a sense of purpose that had nothing to do with being someone's mother or grandmother. My social calendar was full. Book club on Monday nights, walking group every morning, sewing classes on Thursday, brunch with Patricia on Sundays, volunteer work at the animal shelter on Wednesdays. I had built a life so rich and fulfilling that I sometimes marveled at how much time I had wasted being unhappy in my old situation. One Saturday afternoon my doorbell rang. When I checked the security camera, I saw Marcus and the kids standing in the hallway. I hesitated, then buzzed them in. They arrived at my door looking uncertain. Marcus held a bouquet of flowers. Kevin and Lisa carried cards they had made themselves. Mom, Marcus said quietly, can we come in? I opened the door and stepped aside. They entered my condo and the kids' eyes went wide. Grandma, this is so pretty, Lisa said, looking around at my carefully decorated space. Thank you, sweetheart. Marcus stood awkwardly in my living room, looking around at the life I had built without him. Mom, I came to apologize. Really apologize, not just say words because I want something. I am listening. I was wrong. About everything. I should have asked your permission before making plans to move into your house. I should have respected your right to make your own decisions. I should have valued you as a person instead of just seeing you as a resource to solve my problems. The words seemed genuine. I could see the struggle in his face, the difficulty of admitting he had been wrong. Why are you telling me this now? Because Jennifer made me go to therapy. The therapist helped me understand that I was treating you like you owed me something just because you are my mother. That I was acting entitled to your space and your time and your money without ever considering what you wanted. How is Jennifer? She is good. We're doing better. We found an affordable apartment. I got promoted at work. We are managing without relying on anyone else. And honestly, it feels good to handle our own problems. And Diane. She is in an assisted living facility. Her own children are sharing the cost. It is actually better for her because she has professional care and activities. I looked at my son and saw something I had not seen before. Growth. Maturity. Understanding. Marcus, I accept your apology. But I need you to understand that things are different now. I am not the mother who will say yes to everything. I have my own life and my own priorities. Understand. And I am not here to ask for anything. I just wanted the kids to see your new place and for you to know that I am sorry. Kevin and Lisa handed me their cards. They had drawn pictures of me with hearts and flowers. Inside, in their careful handwriting, they had written that they loved me and missed me. Can we visit sometimes, Grandma? Just to see you, not because we need anything. Course you can. I would love that. We spent the afternoon together. I showed them my sewing room and let Lisa try the machine under my supervision. I taught Kevin how to hand-stitch a button. We made cookies together in my kitchen. Marcus sat on my couch watching his children laugh with their grandmother, and I saw tears in his eyes. Before they left, Marcus hugged me. Mom, I am proud of you. I did not understand it before, but I understand now. You fought for yourself and you were right to do it. Thank you, Marcus. That means more than you know. After they left, I stood on my balcony watching the sunset over the city. I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The years of sacrifice. The moment of awakening. The courage to change everything. I was 70 years old and I had finally learned the most important lesson of my life. You cannot love others well if you do not love yourself first. You cannot give from an empty well. And setting boundaries is not selfish, it is self-respect. Rose Martinez had spent 70 years being who everyone else needed her to be. And then one day, she decided to be herself. That decision had cost her temporary relationships and caused family conflict, but it had given her something infinitely more valuable. Her own life, lived on her own terms. I went back inside my condo, my home, my space, and I smiled. Tomorrow I would wake up and decide how to spend my day based solely on what Rose Martinez wanted to do. And that freedom, that simple freedom to choose, was worth everything it had cost to achieve. The sun set on another day in my new life. A life filled with purpose, joy, friendship, and most importantly, self-respect. I had finally learned that it was never too late to start living for yourself. Never too late to set boundaries. Never too late to choose yourself. And as I prepared dinner in my kitchen, listening to my favorite music, planning my week of activities and projects and social events, I felt something I had not felt in decades. Complete and total happiness. Not the happiness that comes from pleasing others, but the deep, lasting happiness that comes from being true to yourself. Rose Martinez was finally home. Not in a building or a city, but in herself. And that was the best home she could ever have found.